I accidentally boarded a time-traveling death train. I cursed under my breath as I glanced at the clock. 9:45 p.m. I was supposed to have been home 2 hours ago, but today's paperwork had piled up and I needed to finish them before tomorrow. By 11:45 p.m., I was done. Exhausted, I quickly packed up my things and dashed out of the office. I walked the nearly empty streets heading to the subway station, which was my usual route home. When I arrived, I was surprised to see a wooden barrier placed at the entrance. It looked makeshift, as if someone had hastily put it up. This was strange, as the subway station was the busiest and rarely closed off. Since the next station was several blocks away and it was already late, I couldn't afford to go all the way there. So without hesitation, I hopped over the barrier and headed down the stairs that led to the boarding point. The platform was eerily empty, with no train or person in sight. Even the usual late-night train that I was used to boarding was not there. I sighed and turned to leave, but was immediately stopped by the distant rumble of an approaching train. Relief washed over me as I saw the train pull up into the station. It wasn't the one that I was used to boarding, but an old, almost vintage-looking one. As soon as it stopped and the doors opened, I quickly boarded, then went on over to a random empty seat. The train was completely empty. It was weird, but I dismissed it, too tired to give it much thought. It moved smoothly as it left the station, the rhythmic clatter of the wheels almost lulling me to sleep. I stared out the window, the darkness outside giving way to brief flashes of light as we passed through tunnels. Time seemed to stretch, the journey feeling longer than usual. I checked my watch, frowning at the minute hand that seemed to be moving slower than normal. Finally, the train came to a halt. The doors slid open and I got up and stepped outside. I quickly noticed I was in a completely different place, not the familiar surrounding of my home station. The air was thick with smoke and the acidic smell of gunpowder. The buildings looked very old, their architecture reminiscent of a bygone era. I must have got off the wrong location, I thought to myself. As I turned to go back inside the train, its doors immediately slammed shut and the train sped off. I tried chasing after it, to no avail. The train was gone. I stood in the middle of this place confused and shaken, when suddenly I heard the loud sound of gunfire. I turned and saw a man. He appeared to be in his late 30s, dressed in army clothes, and in his hand was a rifle. He stood still, his eyes looking me up and down. Maybe he could tell me about my whereabouts, I thought to myself. I approached him but immediately stopped after I saw him swiftly raise his rifle and point it at me, shooting. I dropped to the ground immediately, barely avoiding the bullets, then took to my feet. I could hear the soldier pursuing me, his footsteps growing louder. Luckily, I was able to duck into a hidden alleyway. It took me a moment to realize where I was. An old newspaper stand caught my eye and I could see that the date read July 1914. I was in the past, right in the middle of World War I. Panic set in as I heard the sound of chaos outside. Gunfire, shouting, and explosions. I ducked behind a trash can as soldiers ran past, their faces grim and hardened by the war. Suddenly, a hand grabbed me from behind, pulling me into a dark, hidden doorway. I then found myself face to face with a group of men in dark suits. They didn't look like soldiers. One of them spoke, his voice calm and authoritative. "You're not supposed to be here. How exactly did you get here?" I quickly explained that I was in a train heading home. It stopped and I got off thinking I was at my home station, but I found myself here. The man then explained that they were time-traveling CIA agents tasked with tracking rogue anomalies. The train I had boarded was an alien kinetic energy that traveled across timelines and universes. I had accidentally stumbled upon it, and now they had to send me back home. They led me through a series of tunnels until we arrived at a train station. This one was a modern futuristic train that was waiting. The agents assured me that they would try their best to handle everything and that they would do their best to assure that I was back home, safe and sound. I boarded the train feeling a strange sense of déjà vu. The doors closed and the train began to move. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang and the lights in the train went off. Outside, I could hear screaming and a weird chiming noise. The train moved faster so I couldn't see exactly what was going on. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, I was waking up in my bed. I lazily turned and I met a woman sleeping next to me. "Morning, baby. You came home so late last night," she said. I was confused. She raised her head and what I saw next made my heart drop. Her body was half human, half centipede. "I'll go make breakfast," she said as she crawled out of the room. My mind immediately came to the realization that the train must have dropped me at a completely different timeline. A timeline where people were centipede hybrids. I raised my head only to see that my body was also half centipede. Hey everyone, if you've enjoyed today's story, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because it helps me out a lot. See you on the next video.